This evening. I'm looking forward to presenting my second live training, just to increase more awareness on the aftermath of the potential side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine. So, I feel that it's my duty of care as evidence emerges and the more conversations I have with people, I feel that, this needs a little bit more discussion. So, yeah, without any judgment, this is not about that. This is about presenting the evidence with what is being shown at the moment so that you can just feel like if it's relevant to you, you don't need to say whether it is or not, but if it is relevant to you, if you could just then feel into that there's a way out, there's definitely a way out. So this is to offer guidance, to offer support in the aftermath. Should you have taken the vaccine, should you have had a reaction, because not everybody did, but then a lot of people did. So, a lot of people have had reactions, many people haven't. Some have had immediate reactions, which is more of like an anaphylaxis type allergic scenario. Others have had a delayed onset reaction, which is where it is impacting our immune system via the autoimmune pathway. And it's just really interesting, because the leading endocrine disorder that's been impacted to date by the COVID-19 vaccine, few specifically, but just broadly, is thyroid disorders, Graves, Hashimoto, so the autoimmune thyroid disorders. And, not also ignoring the fact that other endocrine disorders are being impacted, such as infertility, issues with blood sugar, adrenal issues, so issues with the adrenal gland and kidney function as well. So, there's a lot going on. And then, of course, that is separate to the cardiovascular system, which clearly I think it's very well known in mainstream media to date that, cardiovascular effects are a huge issue, mainly because of the ACE2 receptor, which is involved in the way the vaccine works and also in blood pressure, etc., etc. But tonight I'm going to be focusing on autoimmune thyroid and the impact, and also breaking down the 4 ways that the vaccine may have triggered an autoimmune condition at that cellular level, so that you can see. Now I'm just going to refresh my screen because I can't see the comments. If you're coming on here live, please say hello. Let me know that you're here. Fantastic. My 2 amazing team members, Shell and Leanne, are here. So yeah, and pop any questions along the way. Certainly, if this is going to be relevant or helpful to a friend, a neighbor, a family member, a sister, an auntie, anyone, you may wish to invite them into this group, just to get a fresh take or a different take or something that actually resonates with them already. So I hope to deliver a good live training tonight on a very contentious issue, but I'll do my best to do it justice and provide balanced evidence as well. So before we get started, I would love to welcome the new members that have come into this space. If you've come in directly to watch this live training, this is one of those live trainings that's kind of out there on a limb, but we do a variety of different live trainings, all related to thyroid issues, whether it's trying to find the root cause, whether it's a specific system that's related like gut function or, clearly immune system or any other system, female reproduction as well. So, there's quite a large variety of live trainings, but tonight we're specifically talking about the thyroid fallout, what the COVID-19 vaccine didn't tell you, essentially because it was rushed, it was rolled out under emergency situations. And because of that, yeah, it's like one of those things that happens in humanity. And then 5, 10 years, like we're 5 years after the effect now, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, more information is coming through. So, I feel that this is one that's going to be going on for quite some time because it's impacting so many people's lives, the after effect. So I'm not actually talking about the impact of the virus if you were sick with COVID-19. I'm actually talking about the vaccine specifically because it's delivered like a, medication, for want of another word. And because of that impact, that is the trigger. Having said that, COVID-19 as a virus, of course, is a trigger as well. And there's a lot of evidence about that. However, tonight I'm talking about the vaccine. All right. So this is a blend of science and lived experience. And this is also, I give my naturopathic insight, my opinion at the very end, and in terms of what you can do to help if this applies to you or if this is some information that you'd like to pass on to someone else. So I've had many conversations with people, some of them I'm working with, others I'm not working with. But one that springs to mind is a recent conversation that I had, and I've changed the name. So the person's name is different to this name that I'm going to use. So the name I'm using is Belle. And essentially, she took two vaccines back in 2022 under pressure and also thinking that it was the right thing to do, and essentially had some alarming impacts from that months after and even years after that essentially triggered Graves' disease. Now, this lady went back to the doctor, went to the specialist, the endocrinologist, numerous times, and each time was dismissed and ignored, and essentially it was all in her head. All right. So now this doesn't always happen, but this happened to this lady. And we've done a deep dive initial consultation, and already just from that one initial session, that's what we started with. So you can come into my program. We just did the one initial deep dive session, which was like a half day. And from there, basically I took what evidence I have to date about her body knowledge and the understanding in her body based on what evidence she had to provide for me. We did a deep and detailed health history intake. And then from all of that information, I devised a treatment plan. We didn't do functional testing. Okay, we didn't do functional testing. There wasn't the finance for that. I delivered a treatment plan based on the information, and I am absolutely over the moon because this wonderful woman absolutely applied every single thing that was recommended and has seen marked improvement in as little as 2 to 3 weeks. Cannot believe it, is gobsmacked. So, the thing is the body is on your side. The body is always on your side. And sometimes we just need that little nudge, that little point in the right direction to give the body what it's really crying out for. And when we provide that, it goes, oh, I know what to do. Thanks. It's almost like we need to sometimes help it with some new instruction sets, because it's taking the wrong information. And in this particular situation, would be because of the spike protein. I'm going to get to that in a moment. But we're basically giving the body a bit of a leg up so that it can do the thing to help process and detox, whatever it is out of it, and also fortify her systems. So yeah, I think that's an amazing story. I'm really, really happy to be witnessing this. So let me just ask you, if you feel, and for those of you watching the replay as well, if you feel in your heart that there's something, like a shift, or there's been something that's impacted after taking the COVID-19 vaccine, I'd love you to drop a heart. Because this is your seat of intuition. This is your heart consciousness. This is your knowing. And if you feel it in your heart, it's most likely true, because our body wisdom is something to be said for. So I just love you to just drop a heart. And you may already be working on rectifying this. You may have already rectified it. You might be just muddling through. But, if you just think back that you haven't really been the same since, right? And it might be something else, because it's not just, we're not blaming anything here. It's not just, the vaccine is a trigger, just like a gut infection is a trigger, just like a parasite might be a trigger, or a candida infection might be a trigger. Epstein-Barr virus, a traumatic event, a stress overload. There are so many triggers, and this is another one. Okay. So yeah, just drop a heart, and I'd just love to know. Yeah, beautiful shell. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to keep refreshing my screen so that I can keep up to date with the comments. So just keep them coming in so that I can interact with you. Alrighty, so first of all, I'm going to be talking about the thyroid autoimmunity and the vaccine link. And before I do, I'm just wondering if I might just share my screen so that you can see. I'm going to see if I can share my screen just so you can see where I'm getting my information from. Hang on a minute. I think this is important so that you know that, here we go. I think I might have to share each one individually, but I'm going to just give this a crack. Team, let me know if you can see it. Okay, so this first one, biomolecules, the ambivalence of post-COVID-19 vaccine responses in humans. And this was published in October last year. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see this, guys. And then this one, SARS-CoV-2 vaccine-related endocrine disorders, an updated narrative review. Okay, so these aren't systematic reviews, they're not clinical trials. Okay, no one's going to be getting that now to do a clinical trial. This is these reviews on what evidence is coming through. So this was published in July 2024, and then the other one, which is really interesting because it has evidence and then it says, but there's no link. This is March 2025. Okay, so if anyone here would like this information, just type information and I will send this to you. It is freely available, but yeah, if you wanted me to send it across or my team to send it across, we will certainly do that for you. All right, Susan, Suzanne Waters here, Sue Davies is here, fantastic. So yeah, just type information, we'll send these this evidence across to you so you can have a read through it yourself if you like. Alrighty, so essentially the study by Ishay et al. 2024, this one highlights information. Sharon, fantastic. Yes, we'll get that to you. Beautiful. Sorry, I just lost my notes. This one highlights that thyroid disorders are the most reported endocrine issue post-COVID-19 vaccine. So COVID in general. So Graves' disease and Hashimoto's. And of the Hashimoto's, 76% of cases, not Hashimoto's, thyroid in general, 76, sorry, excuse me, I'm getting my information muddled up. Okay, subacute thyroiditis, which is inflammation of the thyroid gland, and it may be like funky thyroid panel, like you're not feeling your best self. 76% of cases resolved post-vaccination. Now that is significant. That's great. So that's really good news. That tells us that of everybody that was affected, 76% resolved. However, 12% progressed to long-term hypothyroidism. Okay, so this tells us that there's absolutely a window of opportunity, even if it's a few years on. If it's a few years on and if you've been diagnosed with hypothyroidism because of post-vaccine, okay, even so, 2 years is really a short amount of time compared to 10, 20, 30 years that people can have a diagnosis of hypothyroidism. So there's absolutely still a window of opportunity that you can actually do something about it to help your body to heal and overcome that. Okay. Alrighty. So that's the evidence on that. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty statistics because I'd be here all night. But essentially, the conditions seen of the thyroid area are subacute thyroiditis, silent thyroiditis, so no marked symptoms, Graves' disease, so new or relapse. So the COVID-19 vaccine has also been shown to trigger a relapse of an already formed diagnosis, and also Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism like symptoms. We know that Hashimoto's is a precursor to hypothyroidism. So Hashimoto's / hypothyroidism. Okay. So symptoms would often appear within 10 days. However, they could also appear several months after. All right. This is what's really interesting. And this is why it's been such a tricky area to really get an understanding of, because we're all different. We're all different. Okay. So, if you've experienced symptoms like, the classic symptoms of thyroid, like heart palpitations, inflammation, like really feeling inflamed, like achy joints, like you're just feeling inflamed, fatigue, weight gain, brain fog, thyroid type symptoms, fatigue is a big one. You might even have some gut issues, just pop an emoji in the comments, just if this resonates. And this would be if it was like a few weeks, a few months, but you just know that it was kind of out of the blue, but not out of the blue, but it was since taking that. So that's going to be giving you a really good heads up in terms of where to treat. And I'll get into that in terms of helping yourself, and we'll get into that later on. Okay, so now I'm going to be talking about the 4 ways in which the vaccine can trigger thyroid autoimmunity, thyroid issues. The 4 ways. Okay, I'm getting distracted by the comments. I'm just going to put my notes over there for a minute so I can focus on this. Okay, so the first way is I'll try to break it down in the most simplistic form. So it's really complex. I'm just telling you, it's so complex. But the first way is molecular mimicry, so mistaken identity. So it's kind of like, parts of the spike protein. So the spike protein is in the virus, okay? That's how it actually causes an impact in our body. And it's also what was created to be in the vaccine. So parts of the spike protein introduced by the vaccine look very similar to some of our own body tissues, very similar to thyroid-like proteins, okay? So what happens is the immune system does what it's supposed to do with vaccination. It creates an army to fight the spike protein, but it accidentally attacks similar-looking tissues which are in the thyroid gland because it can't tell the difference. So it's almost like, it's like that trigger response. It's like your immune system has lots and lots of different, areas of the army. You've got the natural killer cells, you've got the front runners, you've got the lymphocytes, the monocytes, all the different neutrophils. You've got lots of different white blood cells, and they all play different roles, and they work together as a team. But sometimes, there's like it's working so hard to protect you, it can get confused. So that's essentially what happens. Just like if you can imagine, like the immune system is trying to catch a burglar, but accidentally arrests the neighbor who just looks like the burglar, right? So that's actually what it's like. It's like, yeah, let's go catch him. Oh, we got you. Oh, no, you're not the right one, but it doesn't realize. Okay, so that's kind of what it is. Right, so that's the first space, which is mistaken identity. Now, the second way that the actual vaccine can cause an impact is collateral damage. from an overheated immune response. So this is also called bystander activation, right? So with this particular impact, the immune system gets very alerted and fired up during vaccination. So which is the desired response. It gets really fired up and like ready, like, yeah, let's go team. And then in the process, it accidentally activates other immune cells nearby, which aren't supposed to be involved. So it's not really their role, but they're activated. It's almost like, you think of someone influencing someone else there. They're all fired up and they're like, oh, I'm not really interested, but that looks exciting over there. So I'm just going to go over and just check it out. It's that type of thing. Or a crowd of people panicking in a fire alarm. And some people get trampled who are never near the flames, that type of thing. So this is bystander activation, which is another way. Okay, so these overacted cells, so they start by attacking your own tissues, not because they were triggered by the spike protein. This is different. This is because they got caught up in the overactivity of the immune system, trying to do the right thing. They just kind of got swept up in all the rigmarole of what's going on. Okay. And this is not dissimilar to heat shock proteins. So heat shock proteins are protective proteins. They're meant to be there. And they are, part of our immune system, and they help repair damaged cells. But under immense amount of stress, like infection, inflammation, or vaccination, these heat shock proteins ramp up, and sometimes they become mistaken targets. So especially in those with autoimmune tendencies. So the reason I feel that autoimmune and specifically thyroid or autoimmunity seems to be a huge contender and has been impacted greatly by the vaccine is because, there's no doubt in my mind, people with thyroid issues are highly sensitive individuals. Every single one of my clients who has an autoimmune thyroid issue is a highly sensitive individual. Me, myself, who has Hashimoto's, I'm a highly sensitive individual. On that biological level, like my immune system will overreact. I go swimming in the chlorine pool, which I hate, by the way, but I love swimming. So, risk-benefit ratio. And, I, react. My body doesn't like it. So I get an immune system reaction. So people with thyroid issues generally have very sensitive immune systems. It's almost like the immune system is very trigger happy because there's already an autoimmune issue. So, it could be a situation where people didn't know that they actually had some autoantibodies present. Because let's be real, when you have symptoms of a thyroid issue, or even if you don't have symptoms, but you just think, oh, yeah, I'm tired, I'll just get on with it. There is also the likelihood that you've had, an undercurrent of an autoimmune issue occurring, and then suddenly you've taken the vaccine thinking that you're all well and healthy, and that's what's triggered it. Because so many people, and I've mentioned this in many live trainings before, there are many people that are walking around with subclinical autoimmune thyroid issue and they don't actually even know. Many of my clients who I've worked with have come in with other significant issues like gut issues, and the thyroid seems normal on the pathology, but down the track we've decided to test the autoantibodies, and actually the autoantibodies are up, which means that there's a subclinical thyroid or Hashimoto's occurring. Hasn't actually impacted the thyroid hormones as yet. However, it's there. So yeah, I find this really interesting, and to me it's no surprise because when all this was occurring and there was some anecdotal evidence coming through, I thought I bet thyroid autoimmunity is going to be is going to be hugely impacted by this, and it's actually true. That's actually what's happening. So getting on to the third way. The third way is the viral epitope. I think it's pronounced epitope or epitope. It's probably epitope. viral epitope spreading, or the snowball effect. So this one starts small, then spreads. So initially the immune system attacks the spike protein as planned, but then it begins to target nearby proteins and tissues that were never part of the original threat, okay? So the process spreads like a ripple effect or a snowball effect, turning a small response into a big autoimmune problem over time. So this is why if it's several months after the fact, it's still possible that the vaccine was a trigger for you, because this particular way is like a ripple effect over time. Think a tiny crack in your window, in your windshield in the car, and then it gradually just spreads, and then it just, next thing, it's like spreading all over the windshield and you have to get it replaced. That type of thing. Sometimes it can be just a small crack for several months, and then it gets a bit bigger, and after a year or so, it's kind of spread. So that's the type of thing. It's a snowball effect. Now, the fourth way is overstimulation from the additives in the vaccines, otherwise known as adjuvants. So these adjuvants elicit an immune response, overstimulation of the immune system. So these are ingredients in vaccine that are meant to wake up the immune system, like they're meant to actually tell the immune system to wake up, pay attention, there's an alert, there's something going on, because that's the nature of vaccines. That's what it's trying to do. It's trying to wake up the immune system to elicit an immune response so that you are protected from the actual big threat. That's the whole idea behind it. But in sensitive individuals, these adjuvants overstimulate the immune system, keeping it too heightened for too long. So it's like in a state of alert for too long a period of time. And this over alert state can lead to the immune system attacking your own tissues even long after the initial trigger has gone. So think it's like drinking too much coffee. You're still jittery and reactive even after the caffeine should have worn off. It's that type of effect. Okay, so they're the four main ways that are in the evidence so far as to different pathways that could overlap and be a culminating factor or an individual factor for any single person that took the vaccine. Okay. There are also some genetic tendencies, particularly the HLA-B35 and the HLA-04 genotypes. Shell, if you could type those in the chat, the HLA-B35 and the HLA-C04 genotypes. Actually, I'm just going to pop it here. Here we go. And on that, I'd just love to ask, has anyone done a DNA test or a gut function test that actually reveals something interesting about their immune system or detox profile? Like DNA tests like 23andMe, that's one that was going around a long time ago. There's a new DNA test that you can get done through Nutripath. I've actually done that on myself. It's like 120 pages long. Haven't got through it all yet because it's all numbers and coding, right? But it's pretty interesting. Yeah, I found it pretty interesting. I just did it because I was curious. Yeah, so I'd love to know. Just drop genes in the comment if you're watching the replay as well, and if you've done a DNA test of sorts, drop genes. I'd love to know what you gleaned from that, because it's all sorts. You can find out methylation issues. You can find out tendencies. Gut function test August last year. Fantastic, Sharon. Beautiful. Love it. I'd love to know which one you did. There's so many around. Yeah, we use RN Labs. Yeah, Precision Analytical. Anyway, we also use some from Nutripath as well, but I'd love to know what you've done. So Shell and Leanne, you guys have done the DNA testing panel. I didn't know that. Okay, we'll have to get our data together and have a little look through. Yeah, it's just really interesting. Like the more types of tests that you can do on your body, I find it really great because it allows us to see what's going on and give us that body evidence that, so we have our intuition, we have all the things that we're doing, but when we get that deep level of information, that's where we can really marry that with, our intuition and our health history and really formulate a treatment plan moving forward that aligns with you. So, it was an American lab. Oh, I'd love to know the name of that. Yeah, because we use one that goes over to the States as well. To me, the one that we use is the gold standard. I like it. It's great, detailed reporting, better than the Victorian counterparts, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'd do the Australian one. Okay, all right. So, okay, I just wanted to also highlight this in the 2025 study. So this found a correlation between post-vaccine cytokine activity, which are like inflammation markers, and autoantibodies against heat shock proteins in certain individuals. So yeah, I found that interesting as well. But that same study said that there's no evidence, there's not enough evidence. Most of the studies are saying that there's not enough evidence, but then they go on to explain the emerging evidence. I almost think it's so that it can get passed by the ethics committee, or it can get published. I'm really skeptical on that because the conclusion, mind you, with this type of literature and data, unless there is absolute 100% proof, like it's called statistical significance, and that would only be done on a clinical trial, by the way. These are literature reviews. So they can never say that there's 100% evidence or unrefutable evidence. So yeah, but so when you get, if you're wanting the information, and I'm going to send it across to you, I think one of you have asked for that already. When you have a look at that, try not to just read the conclusion. Have a look at the breakdown of, who was studied, where the information come from, and the case studies, because that's where you're probably going to get the most information, the individual case studies, because at the end of the day, the evidence, if it causes an impact, is based on population studies. And you are not a population. You are an individual, a unique individual that may or may not have HLA-B35, HLA-CO4. They're not testing that. Well, they clearly did because, that's what come up. But my point is, they're not testing all the other things that are occurring for you as an individual. So this is where you take the evidence that's coming out, you feel into your own body and think, well, when is it that I really haven't been the same since? Was it since that? Or did that happen before that? And did it worsen after the effect? And really feel into that for you, because when we understand the triggers, that just gives us more information. This is not a blame game. This is not to go, oh, that was the cause, nothing I could do, I took it, that's it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We are so much more powerful than that, ladies and gentlemen. We are so much more powerful than that. Our immune system is highly intelligent. It can overcome so many things. So, the reason for this live training is to give you clear vision that absolutely there is something that you can do about it. 100%. Doctor's data. Sharon, woo, we're on the same page. That's the one that we use. Love it. Yeah, if you did the gold standard one, it's a great amount of information. Fantastic. Love to hear more. I'm excited. maybe we'll have a chat one day. Alrighty, so okay, so what I want to talk about now is essentially the emerging patterns. So this is the pattern recognition that's coming through the evidence. Okay, it's called pharmacovigilance. Covigilance. Yeah, that's what it's called, pharmacovigilance, right? And basically, it's how they track the side effects in the real world. So they use systems like, TGA, VAERS, the UDRA vigilance in the EU, etc. And the emerging patterns are new onset thyroid autoimmunity, specifically. That's an emerging pattern. So whilst these literature reviews are saying that there's no clear evidence, there's an emerging pattern. So we go, okay, well that makes sense because I haven't been I haven't been my best self since then, etc., etc. Right? Um, the other emerging pattern is recurrent autoimmune flares. So this is, you might have been diagnosed before, you might have been in remission. This is also the same for cancer. Yeah, just letting you know. Cancer is like an autoimmune issue, okay? Highly sensitive, highly triggered. So this is also for cancer. Fatigue, hormonal imbalance, and inflammation. So there's three main symptoms which are an emerging pattern: fatigue, hormonal imbalance, and inflammation. Infertility, huge, okay? But it's not about causation, it's about the correlation that actually deserves our attention. It's about correlating the evidence. And then we know where to look and we know how to fortify our body. We know what pathway to tread, okay, because there's things that we can do. So this is where I'm going to get into the naturopathic. So, okay, it's really interesting because like a vaccine becomes a part of your immune system. When a vaccine is injected, it becomes a part of your immune system. But if you've heard of a booster shot, of course, we know we've all received, if you've been vaccinated as a child, received booster shots. So the vaccines wear off, all right? So essentially, this is your cue to healing. So if we can fortify those areas in your body that are a little bit under par. It might be your gut. It might be you might have leaky gut. It might be your detox pathways. It might be your liver. You might have high cholesterol or poor liver phase 1 detoxification pathways, poor sulfation pathways, glucuronidation pathways. You might have a level of adrenal fatigue. There are so many areas in your body that we can fortify through natural means so that you can essentially get a leg up on this vaccine as a trigger, okay? So think detox pathways, think clean eating, think doing things in a completely different way that you've done before to lower inflammation in your body. Because if you've already got chronic low-grade inflammation, then you take a vaccine and then you've got amplified inflammation. Can you imagine if you really did everything that you could do to help lower that chronic low-grade inflammation? It would lessen the impact of the overreactive inflammation, right? So it's about fortifying our body. So we're supporting organs like the liver and our lymphatic system, huge. So just to share some household things, this is not a bespoke treatment plan. These are just some household items that you might even have. A daily dose of dandelion tea, some milk thistle, would go astray at this particular time. You might want to boost your glutathione, your master antioxidant in your body. And there's different ways that we can do that. There's different ways that we can actually help remedy an imbalance in our gut microbiome or a gut infection by a focused and targeted plan. With that, my strong recommendation is that you do a gut function test, like the one that Sharon has done. Yeah, I'd love to chat with you as well, Sharon. Fantastic. Beautiful. I'll get a link out to you and we'll book something in. So, and just really supporting your nervous system and your immune system via the gut, your immune system via your nervous system, via your adrenals, all systems go. So this is how we help our body overcome a trigger. which can be any trigger at all. Tonight I'm talking about the vaccine trigger. Okay, so it's not like doom and gloom forever and a day thing. Not at all. Not a doom and gloom. We don't want doom and gloom. You know, it's not like if you're here and you think, well, I did that and there's nothing I can do, you know, you're already on the back foot. But if you think, okay, well, I did that, and there's no judgment, again, I just keep saying this, there's no judgment, but if there's just so much coercion, so much force. So, but if you did that and you think, oh, damn it, I wish I didn't do that, there's absolutely something that you can do about it. You know, you can be your very best healthy self. You can do everything that you can do to get the very best for your health and wellness. Absolutely. To overcome this. All right? Because our body is innately intelligent. It might take a little while. It might take a longer time. You might actually find that there are other symptoms that disappear because of your due diligence in really paying attention to your health and well-being right now. So there's absolutely no hope lost. And I highly recommend that, you know, if you're wondering that there's nothing you can do, to just really feel into that. Why would you think that? And also, if you've been told that there's no impact and it's not impacting you, and you've been told that it's not that, but you know in your heart, in your consciousness, in your seat of intuition that actually you think that there's something going on there, you know, reach out for a chat. Let's have a chat. Let's break it down. Let's break down your health timeline and see if it is, see if there's something else, see if there's a potential underlying root cause, and then that happened to be a little trigger. You know, like the match in the bundle of hay that just blew it all up. You know, because you know, healing is not a sprint. It's a gentle clearing of the fog. Right? It's not a sprint. You might want to be well in 2-3 months' time. It might be a lifelong journey. Everything happens to us for a reason. Anyway, that's my belief. That's my input. You don't need to believe it. I believe everything happens for a reason. And if we seek out the messages from why it's happened, that's where we can heal in more ways than one, because our body is always providing messages for us. It's when we band-aid them up, sweep them under the carpet, and just ignore them, that's when we don't learn. You know, but when we actually face them and go, okay, that's interesting. I'm pretty curious about that. What's that about? Maybe that is, you know, there's always a silver lining. So what is the silver lining for you? Just feel into that. So what the thyroid needs after a flare is calm, is groundedness, centeredness, and 100% full attention on your health and wellness. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what your thyroid needs after a flare. It doesn't need you to just like, not you, me, all of us, to just kind of ignore it and soldier on. It actually needs a moment in time for you to pause and reflect and nurture yourself back to well-being. And get curious, you know, do the thyroid panel, do the autoantibodies. That is the first step. It's definitely not the last step. You know, it's very preliminary information. If you don't already have a diagnosis, but you're suspecting one, you know, full thyroid panel, TSH, free T4, free T3, reverse T3. You won't get that through Medicare lab, but anyway, give it a go. Reverse T3, you can get it and pay for it. And then your TPO, your TG, and your TRAB autoantibodies. That's what you need to get. And I would also extend that to your CRP and ESR, which are inflammatory markers, vitamin D, you know, zinc, if you can get that, and your iron studies. That would be a really great kickstart. And of course, your full blood count and liver function test. So there we go. That's what we would do as a preliminary. just to see what's going on in your body. And then from there, we look at, functional testing to really see what's going on the inside of your body. Okay. All right, so I hope you found this interesting. That's it in a nutshell. We've got these three articles. I'm going to send them over to whoever has asked. If you're coming in on this a little bit later and you're wanting the articles that I've obtained this information from, just type information and we'll send that across to you. If you'd like to have a chat, just drop chat. Just drop chat and I'll send out a link and we can just have a 10-15 minute conversation about your story, what's going on for you, and go from there. So thanks for coming on live. Thank you to all the new members coming in as well. And if you found this valuable, I'd love some feedback. Just type valuable in the comments, just to give us some feedback. If there's something that you feel that you would have liked a little bit more information on, or I didn't cover something that you'd really like to learn more about, or you would have liked me to cover, please drop it in the comments as well, so that I can just be prepared and understand what you're really looking for, and potentially we can actually have a chat about that. Sue, yeah, we'll send that information to you. Beautiful. And yeah, thanks for coming on board tonight's live. If you want to go deeper and explore what's going on with your thyroid post-vaccination, or if anything's going on in your body, if you want to look for the root cause, just drop chat and we'll set up a time to chat, and we can go from there. All right. Love to all. Thanks, Sue. I'm glad you found this valuable. Thanks, Leanne. Sharon, very valuable. Beautiful. Shell, valuable. Beautiful. Fantastic. That was my goal for tonight, to add value, to bring some value. So beautiful. Have a beautiful evening, and I look forward to seeing you next week at 7:30 on Wednesday with a different topic altogether. All right. Oh, actually, on that, next week, yes, we have an interview with the beautiful Julie O'Brien. So this is registration only. So for next Wednesday's live training, it's not going to be fed into this group. I'm keeping the space sacred because this is her personal story at how she overcame and has really gotten a handle on her Graves' disease. So I really wanted to keep the space really sacred and honor that space. So anybody is welcome to come in, but you must register because it's going to be through the Zoom call, through the Zoom link, but it won't be recorded into this group. So you'll see marketing up on that tomorrow. If you're wanting that, just type Graves or sacred Graves, so that we know exactly what you're talking about. So sacred Graves. And what we'll do is we'll directly send you the link to register. But yes, I cannot emphasize that enough. If you're wanting to come on to that live training and witness the beautiful Julie's story and our interview together, just look out for that. All right, Sacred Graves, and we'll send that link to you. All right. That's it from me. And yes, I'll mention, I'll pop those in the chat here. I'll just finish this live and then I'll pop this in the chat, Sue. Not a problem at all. Alrighty, that's it from me. Bye for now.